Okay, let's talk about mixing some colors. Now, what we want to do is we don't need to study a tremendous amount of color theory with these beginning lessons. What we're going to do is slowly introduce you to some color theory. My problem that I have as being an artist and being a paint manufacturer, for between 20 and 30 years, especially being an artist for over 30 years, is that we've created too many colors. And when we create too many colors, the harmony of your piece, the interreaction of the colors goes down. And so paintings can become more jarring. And artists have found this for hundreds and hundreds of years. You go back to limited palettes, what we call Zorn palettes. And in any fine art institution or anything, they always teach what we call the Zorn palette. And what the Zorn palette is a Swedish painter who, his name was Anders Zorn, and he created this limited line of colors and used it. Even if you look at the great Dutch masters like Rembrandt, used 5 colors. Okay? And so by limiting your colors down, what you do is you create this greater harmony because everything comes from these mixes, and so everything has something in common. And if they have something in common, they all go together. Now this goes from all your fine interior decorators and everything. They say that you use a common color to tie things together. You can use a common color inside a color to tie things together. But when you go grab this bottle, this bottle, this bottle, this bottle, what you've done is you've got all these colors that may not have any kind of relationship whatsoever to each other, and you're just filling in all these little shapes, and these paintings can become very jarring. So what we want to do is we want to not only reduce the cost of what we're doing by limiting our colors down, but by taking just a couple of minutes and making some of your colors, you can increase the harmony and the beauty of your paintings. So what we have here when we're talking about mixing, and like I did just briefly in the introduction, we have a white and a black. This is for our light colors and our dark colors. We have a red, yellow, blue, base red, yellow, blue that are going to make all of our colors. And we know from color theory, red and yellow make orange, and blue and yellow make green, and red and blue make a violet and stuff. But we also have one other red. Now this one is going to be very, very important because the red violet is a really clear red violet. It sits between red and blue, and it's really clear and it's really cold. It's actually cooler than black, and so we can use it to cool our colors very, very quickly, and that's what we're going to be showing you into this particular program. We're going to be teaching you how to lighten, darken colors, how to mix the hue, greens and oranges and blue violets and so on and so forth. And then we're going to show you how to tone it, how to make it grayer or dull or brighter, and then how to warm and cool. And warm and cool is going to be so very important. So we have 6 colors that we're starting out with. Now, in the books and in the process, you're going to see the Painted Simply color mixing system here. And what we have is our step 1 colors. These are our step 1 colors that you have right here. Okay, these 6 colors. You'll see them listed right here. 6 basic colors for the basic set. Later on in the advanced set, we have a beginning set and an advanced set. And the advanced set has 14 colors where we're going to teach you a little bit more about it, because as an artist you should be able to have the ability to choose which exactly red do you want to use. And so we're going to expand the palette a little bit more and give you some more options later on. But we have step number 1 is to get these colors. Step number 2, as you'll find this in the book, is to make the bases, what we call the base. We have a base orange, a base green, and a base brown, a base toned yellow. And so when you go look at this, this is the entire colors that I use in all of, this is the only colors that I use in all of the Painted Simply books, beginning to intermediate lessons. This is the basic color, 6 colors that I have here, which here's my red violet, here's my Naphthol Red Light. Okay, so that's this color and this color right here and there. You'll see it right there and there. Okay, my Hansa Yellow is right here. There's my Hansa Yellow. Then I have my Phthalo Blue, which is right here. And I like to make up a bunch of white. But white actually belongs in the center of the wheel. White and black belong right here and here. Because white and black are what we call tertiary colors. They belong in the very center of the wheel. We'll talk a lot more about that later on. Okay, we don't need to know that right now. But This is the global palette, and the global palette is set up to do the entire Heritage Paint It Simply process. Okay, so you can paint this without even having to know any color theory whatsoever. And what you're going to find that happens if you start painting with this process over a period of time, this color theory is going to come to you as we slowly feed this color theory to you. So you don't have to go out there and memorize anything. The first thing that you got to remember is if I'm going to make this orange, what I'm going to do is to make any color, like if I want to make this color that's here, I make it from this color and this color. I put those two together. I make the color. So if I wanted to make a color that's here, I mix these two together. And if I wanted to make a violet that's here, I mix these two together. And so I made this green, I mixed these two together here. Okay? So, and you'll see that. And so that's the very first thing that we're going to do is make our base orange. And so to make our base orange that you'll see right here, it is 3 parts of Hansa Yellow to 1 part of the red will make this orange. So I put out, and what I do is and of course I put out larger bits of it, but when you color mix, all you do is you turn the tube upside down right here like this and put out a good chocolate drop or a Hershey's Kiss, depending on where you are. 3 of those to then 1 of this one right here. Okay, so I put out 1 of this size that's right here, and it does not. This is the one thing that I think is very, very important. It does not need to be precisely the same color, and I think that that's one thing that bottled acrylics has hurt a lot of us as painters because there's so many there's just a few little bits of differences in these colors, and we think, oh no, we need to get exactly the same. No, you don't. You don't need that. You just need to get into the ballpark. The Heritage Multimedia is extremely heavy pigmented paint, and so it's going to allow you to make a lot of mistakes along the way and still make beautiful, beautiful paintings. Okay, so but anyway, I mix this up 3 to 1 here, and I get this particular orange color. And so you just put out your chocolate drops like that. Make sure you mix it up really, really well. So here's the orange that I have here. Here's the orange that I had here before. They're both the same right there. That's all good. And then what I do is I sit here and I transfer this right into my wells here of my color. So I put all of that color in and I mix that all up. And when I get done with that, then what I do is if I'm making up a lot of that here, I then take this and then I squirt in a pretty good squirt of the extender medium. Well, first, since this is a brand new bottle, I take the little seal off of it. That makes it easier. But then I just go ahead and I squirt this right in there like that. I squirt in some of that. And I like to use the end of my brush. I use just the end of the brush, and I just mix that all up. Now, when you first do this to a global color here like this, when you're first doing this, you're going to have to, you're going to do this at the a couple of times a day. You're going to have to, during your painting, you're going to have to stir them up, okay? So I take that, and then I take a paper towel here, and then I'll move over to the next color. These that are here, after you've had them in there, in the global palette here for, a day or so, you won't have to stir them quite as often. These I've had in here, I've had in for about 4 months. They've been inside here. And you can see I just dip into those, but even a little bit of color there doesn't hurt anything. But I've had these in here for about 4 months, and the longer they're in here and working in here, the better they get, the longer the drying time they get. So when you first start to, you just add some extender, and then every time that color starts to tighten up a little bit, add a little bit of extender to it, and very soon you're going to make what we call the global colors, and those colors don't need any more extender added to them. And you could go for days without adding any extender to it, okay? But anytime they start to get tight or look a little dry, just add a little extender. These are all great. And I store it, into my global palette when I'm all done. If it's going to be a long time, say it's going to be several weeks, maybe a month or so, and you're not going to be painting, you might want to take a mister bottle and mist the inside of the lid and then set it down. Okay, so I transfer everything to there. That will also apply to this if you don't want to invest in a global palette and you want to do something like this. But these can be a little bit annoying because you have to open up and shut these all the time. Then you get paint, and I already get paint all over my hands anyway for everything that I do, so you might get a few little bits of color around you. So That's a hazard. But so we go through and we mix our colors. That's our basis. So the first thing we have our 6 colors. The next step is to make our bases. One very important color that you're going to see right here is called our base brown. And our base brown, which is this color that's right here, goes into the center of the wheel. The base brown is what is called our toner. It is a tertiary color, and it is what creates all the colors into the second wheel here. So really what you do when you start looking at a color like this, if I take this color here, okay, and I start adding some of my base brown to it here to start to darken it down, you can see it start to become like this color. Let's put a little bit of this out here. These colors that are here just have a lot of base brown into them. And we have exactly the formula for it. You can get that, but you can see you can get that color very easy just by taking this color plus the base brown. And so you'll make these bases. Now sometimes we'll take, this is the base toned yellow. The base tone yellow right here has just a touch of red and black. Your base brown is your warmer red plus black. It's 2 parts of your warmer red plus black. Now that is a very traditional way of making, older way of making brown. You take black, which sits slightly to the blue side. It's a tertiary color, and then a red, and you mix those together. Those are going to give you this beautiful, beautiful brownish color. But you want it slightly onto the red side. If it's slightly onto the black side, when you add it to a yellow, you will get a green. Here you'll get more of a real golden yellow, okay? Real gold. See how I get kind of a golden kind of yellow here. But if I have a touch too much black in it, okay, black and yellow causes it to go green. So if I take black with just a little, or yellow with a little bit of black, you can see it starts to go kind of greenish here, okay? See it go more green. So when you see it go more green, that means it needs more red in it. So if my base brown has too much black in it, it'll go slightly, the yellow that you mix goes slightly green. And the opposite of green is red. That's why we add it. So that base brown is very important. It's easy to make. It's just 2 parts of red to 1 part black. You can be off quite a bit in either way. It doesn't hurt it because the pigments, again, are so heavy pigmented. It's not going to hurt it whatsoever. But if you just went black by itself, your yellow would be too green. And it's not that it's bad. It's just a little bit too green. So the second step here, we start with our 6. The second step is to mix our bases. So we have a base orange here, okay? Then we have a base green that we're going to make. Our base brown, which is our toner, which is our base toner that's here, and then our toned yellow. So we're going to fill in, we have a blue already, we have a yellow, we're going to make an orange, we're going to make a green, and we're going to make a more toned yellow. That toned yellow is very important because Hansa Yellow is very, very bright. I very seldom use it that bright in any kind of painting. And the tone base yellow is very much like a color we call yellow oxide. And it's an older version of yellow that has been used for hundreds of years. So we want that. But so we have this base. So you make your bases here. Then the next step that you are here, now once you make your bases and make enough, and you can save some of these in your containers. I like to save large amounts. You can store the paint like I did in here. These containers, you can store, if you don't have the global, you can make up a lot of those and store those. This is my blue color that I have here, and you can see it stores it and keeps the blues very, very nice. So again, it's an economical way to do that if you don't have the palette. The palette is just really nice to be able to lift the lid off and paint, one lid off instead of picking up these individually and trying to paint. So, but they do hold large amounts of paint, 2 ounces each, and they hold it quite well. So here's the blue color. So you can use those for each of your blues. But you take your 6, make your bases around through here, the base colors that you have, a base green, a base orange, a brown, and your yellow. And then you go on to the third mix here. And in the Rose Mauling books, we call it Rose Mauling bases because this is this little page I printed right off the Rose Mauling book. But you'll see that it's the step 3 colors. No matter what you're doing in the Paint It Simply process, whether you're doing the landscape books, whether you're doing the floral books, whether you're doing the rose mulling books, the step 3 colors, all these colors are exactly the same. So these are the colors I use in the rose mulling book, the colors I use in the landscape book, the colors I use in the blossoms book, the colors I use in the rose book. They're all exactly the same. Okay, and we're the same process. So once you have this palette made, you can go out and paint hundreds of paintings. Okay, so then what I do is I start to make my colors. So this tone dark green that you see right here, and we have them all labeled for you on the next pages in the book. But tone dark green is 2 parts of the base green, the green, to 1 part of this base brown. So if I after I make this green, I would take 2 parts here of my base green that's right here, and then I will add 1 equal part here, a little bit more here of my base brown here. And when I mix that together there, I will get that base green that you see right there. I'll get that base green. So just a touch more green into that, just a touch. And so you have that. But either way, it's going to use it, because what you're going to do, so here I have more yellow in this, and you can see I have the toned yellow green. To this base green and base brown, I add some Hansa Yellow, which is going to make, more of a yellow green, which makes this particular color. But I never use these colors. And that's the beautiful thing about it. I use these colors in combination of each other. I just don't go out and fill in a leaf with this color. I don't do that, because I take this color and I add a little bit of this color and I add a little bit of this color to it. And so I have this leaf going out there with this variation of colors. So don't worry about getting exactly the same color, because it can be off a little bit and it doesn't make a difference, because these colors that you're using this way, these colors that you're going to make, you're just going to be using them in brush mixes to help you make more colors. Does that make sense? So you're in a ring of colors. It's, if you're pretty precise about doing your mixes, you'll get the right color. That's not a problem. But don't worry about it too much. I've made one that this red was off just a little bit on there, and I painted the whole darn, all these pieces with it, and it doesn't, because I don't use that color pure. I use everything as a brush mix. Okay, we are not filling in lines with bottles of color. Everything we do from this point off is brush mix, and if you think it's a little bit too dull, you just add a little bit of this. So you can have this, all this is a more toned version of the color heading this way. So as colors are going this way, they're becoming more tertiary. Here's your brighter colors. These are more toned down heading to brown. The center color for all these colors is the brown. So yeah, I can, if I put this center brown here, out here like this, we'll just take this, and if I say, okay, here I have red, and then this one is red plus brown, you can see the red heading to the brown. And if I said, okay, this is green, here's my green, that's my bright, that's my Christmas colors. This next one is the green plus the brown, and they're heading together. And where you get the harmony is those 2 colors right there go very pretty together. That's where your harmony comes from. Okay, and so I don't always like the red green Christmas together, but yet they sit very pretty together here when they're a little bit more toned down. And what's causing all of that? The brown, the base brown. Okay, so don't worry about being exactly precisely the same color. We're never going to use this color pure or this color pure. Everything is going to be in a brush mix, and you can adjust it very easy. If you mix up a bunch of this color and you say, oh, maybe it's a little toned, don't worry about it. Just toss in a little bit of the brighter green as a brush mix as you're going into the painting, and you're fine. All you want is a color that sits between this green and this brown. That's all you want. It doesn't have to be exactly that same color for this whole system to work. You just want a red that sits between this red and this brown. Any one that you make in between here is going to work, just as long as you see it a little redder than that brown and that a little browner than that red. That's all it takes, okay? So once you mix out your 3, once you take your 6, you mix out your 4 bases that you have, and then you go into step number 3, and you make out the rest of these colors. There's a toned white, and these colors right here fill in. And then if I want to make a color, if I wanted to make a brighter brighter yellow orange, I would take a little bit of my orange and a little bit of my yellow, and I'd make a brighter yellow orange that would go right in between there. If I wanted a more toned one, I would use this yellow and this guy right here, and I'll make a more toned yellow orange that would go right in between those two right there. If I say, oh, okay, I like that, but it's a little bit too two-toned, then maybe I can add a little bit of this and brighten it back up as a brush mix. And that's where we're going to be going. Most of everything that we're going to do is going to pick this color, and then brush mix them together and get some variations. In all of the flowers that we paint, we never paint with a solid color. So when you do these color mixes, please do not worry about getting precisely the same color. That is not important. Okay, that is not important. Don't stress out of that. We'll have other things to worry about later on. Okay, we're going to keep even our color mixing right now a little simple. As we go on through these palettes, we're going to talk to you a little bit more about warms and cools and how to present some of these things, especially as we go into some of the DVDs. After you paint through some of these books, we have a lot of DVDs that support this, and in the DVDs we go into a lot more about temperature and the colors at which we're working in, okay? So because we're specifically painting a piece, and we can talk more to you than we can in just this fundamentals book, okay? So mix up your colors, get your colors out, find a way that you're going to store the colors, and add extender to them as you're putting them out into the global palettes there, and then you're all set to go and you're ready to paint. We'll talk a little bit about preparation, and we'll get into some of the lessons.